The night lights of Itaewon glimmered like a necklace around Seoul's neck. Music spilled from cafes and street bars, and laughter danced through the air. People wore Santa hats, Christmas sweaters, and carried the warmth of the season in their smiles. But for Bilha, the night felt too beautiful to waste being single. She adjusted her tiny red Christmas skirt that sparkled every time she moved, paired with a white off-shoulder top and red heels that clicked like rhythm against the pavement. Her curly hair bounced as she walked, her red lipstick shining brighter than the Christmas lights. She sighed dramatically. "Santa, if you don't bring me love tonight, I'll come to the North Pole myself." People nearby chuckled. She wasn't shy. She was that funny, confident black woman everyone in her workplace adored. She worked at a marketing firm, loved her job, but every night came home to an empty apartment. She always joked that even her microwave had given up waiting for a man. Bilha looked around the busy street. Couples everywhere, holding hands, sharing cotton candy, whispering to each other. "Even the street dogs have partners, see?" she muttered, watching two puppies chasing each other by a cafe. "God, am I the problem or the prophecy?" She laughed at her own joke, shaking her head. She wasn't bitter, just ready. That night, she'd promised herself she wouldn't be lonely. She'd wear her best outfit, grab a drink, dance, and maybe, just maybe, find someone who made her heart skip. So she walked into a small Christmas party happening at Café Solstice, a cozy little place decorated with fairy lights and red ribbons. The air smelled like vanilla and chocolate. People were laughing, playing Christmas games, singing karaoke. It was perfect. As she entered, a few men turned to look. Bilha always turned heads, not just because of her beauty, but because she carried herself like someone who knew her worth. She grabbed a cup of hot cocoa from the counter, raised it, and said to the barista, "Here's to love, even if it's delayed like my last Amazon order." The barista burst out laughing. "You're funny. I'm serious," she said with a wink. "Tonight, Santa must bless me. I can feel it." And maybe Santa was listening because just then, he walked in, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark green Christmas jacket over a black shirt and jeans. His hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his eyes had that quiet intensity, the kind that made you want to know his story. Everyone seemed to know him. People greeted him carefully, respectfully, but no one dared get too close. Bilha's eyes widened. "Whoa, if that's Santa's assistant, then Merry Christmas to me." She didn't know who he was, but something about him screamed dangerous and expensive. Yet she couldn't look away. He leaned against the counter, ordered a drink in Korean, and smiled faintly. That small curve of his lips looked like sin wrapped in charm. Bilha's heart started drumming. "Okay, Bilha," she whispered to herself. "If you want a Christmas miracle, you better grab it." Before her mind could stop her, her feet moved. She walked straight toward him, pretending to look casual but nearly tripping on her own heel. She caught herself just in time, took a deep breath and said loudly, "Excuse me, Santa sent me to collect my gift." He turned, surprised. "What?" And without another word, she kissed him. It wasn't a polite kiss. It was bold, warm, impulsive, the kind of kiss that makes every camera want to flash. The cafe went silent for a heartbeat. Then a few people gasped, others cheered. When she pulled away, his eyes were wide. Hers were mischievous. "There," she said proudly. "Christmas miracle delivered." He blinked. "You just kissed a stranger." She grinned. "Not a stranger. You're my Christmas blessing. Don't ruin the storyline." He chuckled, actually chuckled. "You're either very brave or very crazy." "Both," she replied. "Depends on the lighting." He laughed again, shaking his head. "I'm Jaemin." "Bilha," she said, offering her hand. The woman Santa finally remembered. He shook it gently, still amused. She didn't know it yet, but Jaemin wasn't just some random handsome man. He was the underground mafia boss who ruled half of Itaewon's hidden nightclubs. Every man in the room knew it. Every woman secretly dreamed of him. But that night, Bilha treated him like just another human. And that's what caught his attention. He watched her talk, laugh, and tease the DJ about the Christmas playlist. She was unpredictable, full of light. "You're not from here," he said. "Nope. Kenya. Baby," she replied proudly. "I came here to work, eat ramen, and find love. So far, I've only achieved 2. He smiled. Maybe your third goal starts tonight. Oh, she teased. You applying for the position? He sipped his drink slowly, eyes playful. Maybe. Their conversation flowed easily. From Christmas movies to bad Korean dating habits to Bilha's hilarious attempts at speaking Hangul. Everyone around them could feel their chemistry. Two people who didn't plan to meet, now stealing the spotlight of Christmas night. At some point, the DJ shouted, "To the bold lady who kissed the handsome man. You've officially brought the Christmas spirit." Everyone clapped, laughing. Bilha bowed dramatically like a performer, saying, "I did it for the lonely hearts out there." "You're welcome." Jaemin was laughing so hard he nearly spilled his drink. "You're insane," he said. "And you love it," she replied. He did. He didn't understand how this loud, beautiful, unpredictable woman had walked right into his life and kissed him like a scene from a movie. But for the first time in years, he felt alive. The night stretched on laughter, games, silly karaoke duets, and one unforgettable dance under the glowing Christmas lights. Everyone in the cafe was smiling because of them. It was as if Santa had dropped two chaotic souls into one room just to make everyone else believe in love again. When the party finally ended, Bilha walked out with her heels in hand. Jaemin followed. "So, was I your miracle?" he asked. She smirked. "Halfway. I'll know after breakfast." He laughed. "You're serious about breakfast?" "Always," she said. "No love story starts on an empty stomach." He offered her his hand. "Then let's start yours properly, Miss Kenya." She hesitated for a second, then took it. Her heart fluttered. She didn't know who he really was. She didn't know the chaos he carried behind that charming smile. All she knew was, this Christmas, she wasn't lonely anymore. And somewhere in the night sky, Santa probably winked. The morning after Christmas in Itaewon was slow and golden. The streets that had been full of laughter the night before were now quiet, sprinkled with confetti, and the faint smell of barbecue and cinnamon lingered in the air. Bilha woke up late. Her alarm had screamed for an hour before she finally slapped it into silence. She rolled over, groaning, with her hair all over the place and her red top half hanging off her shoulder. Her phone buzzed. It was a text. "Breakfast? Jaemin." She blinked at it, half smiling. "So it wasn't a dream," she muttered. "I really kissed a stranger in public and got away with it." She laughed, jumped out of bed, and looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were still sparkly from the night before. "Okay, Bilha," she said to her reflection. "Time to impress the man Santa sent." She wore a cute white sundress, grabbed her brown bag, and added her little gold hoops. Her curls framed her face perfectly. She looked radiant, effortlessly beautiful. Downstairs, Jaemin was already waiting. Leaning on a sleek black car, wearing a white shirt, dark jeans, and that same half-smile that made women forget their sentences. When Bilha saw him, she stopped for a second, pretending to fan herself. "Lord, did Santa also make you in heaven's VIP section?" He grinned. "You're late. I call it African timing," she said playfully. "Even Jesus waited 3 days, so be patient." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You're impossible. And you love it," she fired back with a wink. They got into his car, and as soon as he turned on the engine, she noticed something unusual. The dashboard had a faint tattoo-like symbol carved near the steering wheel, almost like a signature. But she didn't ask. She was too busy taking in the moment. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To eat," he said simply. "There's a place in Gangnam that makes the best kimchi pancakes." Her eyes widened. "Gangnam? Rich man breakfast? Okay, let's go." He laughed again, genuinely. No woman had made him laugh like that in years. Most people feared him. They whispered his name. Jaemin, the quiet mafia boss who controlled half the underground clubs and never smiled in public. But here he was, laughing like a normal man at the words of a woman who had kissed him without permission. As they drove through the city, Bilha kept teasing him about everything. His serious driving face, his expensive watch, even his cologne. "What's that smell? Arrogant Millionaire by Dior?" she joked. He looked at her sideways. "You really don't know who I am, do you?" She frowned. "Should I?" He smirked. "No, keep it that way." She laughed, thinking he was joking. "Okay, Mr. Mystery Man. I'll call you Santa Jr. By the time they reached the restaurant, people were already turning heads. They looked like a scene out of a romantic drama. The elegant black woman with a loud laugh and the mysterious Korean man with sharp eyes and soft smiles. They sat by the window. He ordered in Korean, and she tried repeating after him, messing up every word. "Did I just say toilet instead of tea?" she asked. He nodded seriously. "Yes, the waiter thinks you want a toilet." She covered her face, laughing so loud that even the people around smiled. When the food came, kimchi pancakes, bulgogi, and sweet rice, she closed her eyes after the first bite. Heaven! If this man isn't my husband, I'm suing Santa. He nearly choked on his drink. "You're unbelievable. You love it," she said, smirking. He smiled softly this time. "Yeah, maybe I do." There was a moment, quiet but sweet, where they just looked at each other. She felt it. That rare spark. It wasn't forced. It wasn't perfect. It was real. He broke the silence. "So, what brought you to Korea?" She shrugged. "Work. Curiosity. K-dramas lied to me. I came looking for a cute CEO to bump into at a cafe. Instead, I found rude ajumas and overpriced ramen." He laughed. "And yet you stayed." "I stayed because I love it here. The lights, the peace, the way everything moves fast. But sometimes," she hesitated, "it gets lonely." He nodded slowly. He understood that more than she could ever know. Behind his wealth, his underground empire, his cold mask, he was always alone. "Lonely people meet at Christmas," he said quietly. She smiled. "Then I guess we're both Santa's favorite projects." After breakfast, he took her on a walk along the Han River. The water sparkled under the sun, and the air carried that soft chill that made people walk closer. Bilha talked non-stop about her childhood, her family back in Kenya, her obsession with spicy noodles. He listened, really listened. For once, someone wasn't afraid to fill his silence. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "So, what do you do, Santa Jr.? I need to know before I fall too hard." He hesitated. He wasn't ready to tell her the truth, that he ran an underground network, that people feared his name, that his life was tangled with danger. So he simply said, "I run a few clubs. Nothing too serious." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so you're like Mr. Nightlife." He nodded. "Something like that." She laughed. "Perfect. You own clubs, I love dancing. We're already soulmates." He smiled faintly, but there was a flicker of worry in his eyes. She didn't notice. She was too busy posing for pictures beside the river. "Come on," she said. "Take a picture with me. My friends back home will think I'm finally dating a K-drama actor." He leaned in, their heads touching slightly. The picture captured something rare. A genuine smile from him and pure joy from her. As they walked back to the car, he said, "You make the world noisy in a good way." She tilted her head. "That's your poetic way of saying I talk too much, isn't it?" He chuckled. "Maybe, but I like your noise." For a man like him, feared, respected, always in control, liking someone's noise was a confession. When he dropped her off at her apartment, she lingered at the door. "So, when do I see you again?" she asked. He looked at her for a long moment. "Soon," she frowned. "That sounds like a Mafia promise." He smiled slyly. "Maybe it is." She laughed, hitting his shoulder playfully. "You're weird. And you love it," he said softly, repeating her own line. Her smile faded just a little. There was something in his tone deeper, heavier. But before she could ask, he stepped back. "Merry Christmas, Bilha." "Merry Christmas, Santa Jr.," she said, waving as he left. When his car disappeared around the corner, Bilha leaned against her door, smiling to herself. She didn't know that her life was about to spin faster than a Christmas carousel, because the man she kissed under the lights wasn't just a stranger. He was Seoul's most dangerous secret. And now he couldn't stop thinking about her. The next few days after Christmas felt like a soft dream to Bilha. Every time she replayed that breakfast in her mind, his smile, his calm voice, his secretive eyes, she found herself grinning like a teenager. At work, she was unstoppable. She presented her marketing ideas with so much confidence that even her boss, Mr. Han, joked, "Bilha, you must have gotten kissed by luck this Christmas." She just laughed. If only he knew how right he was. But every night, As she lay in bed scrolling through her phone, she noticed one thing. Jaemin hadn't texted. Not once. Not a call. Not even a meme. Ah! She groaned one evening, throwing her pillow across the room. The man I kissed disappeared like Santa's reindeer. Her best friend, Sujin, who worked with her, laughed when she told her. Girl, you kissed a random man at a party. Maybe he's still in shock. Bilha rolled her eyes. Shock or not, he better unshock himself and text me. But somewhere across town, inside a high-rise building with tinted windows, Jaemin was staring at her photo on his phone, the one they took by the Han River. He had zoomed in countless times, tracing the outline of her smile. She was different. She didn't know who he was, and yet she treated him like a normal person, even teased him. That had never happened to him before. People bowed to him, feared him, spoke in half-sentences around him. But Bilha? She'd kissed him before learning his name. Inside his private office, a man in a black coat walked in. It was Dongwook, his right-hand man, who managed the clubs and underground dealings. Boss, Dongwook said, bowing slightly. You've been quiet since Christmas. Jaemin looked up slowly. Have I? Yes, Dongwook said carefully. And people are talking. They say you've been smiling. That's not good for business. Jaemin smirked. Maybe I found something better than business. Dongwook frowned. A woman. Jaemin didn't answer. He just looked out the window watching the city lights. Boss, Dongwook continued. You know it's dangerous. Anyone close to you becomes a target. Remember what happened last time? Enough, Jaemin said sharply. His voice was calm but heavy. The room went silent. Dongwook nodded quickly and stepped back. But the warning stayed in Jaemin's mind long after Dongwook left. He knew he couldn't drag an innocent woman, especially someone as bright as Bilha, into his dark world. And yet, he couldn't stop thinking about her laugh, her boldness, her warmth. 2 days later, Bilha decided she'd waited long enough. She put on her best casual outfit, jeans, a white sweater, and sneakers, and stormed into one of the clubs she'd heard him mention. Club 9 in Itaewon. At the entrance, a tall bouncer stopped her. Do you have a reservation? No, she said confidently. But I'm here to see Jaemin. The man's eyes flickered. He looked her up and down like she'd said something forbidden. Ma'am, you can't just. Tell him Bilha is here, she interrupted, folding her arms. He'll know. The bouncer hesitated, then spoke into his earpiece. A few seconds later, his face changed. Follow me, he said quietly. Bilha blinked. Oh, so I am that girl. Inside, the club was luxurious. Dim lights, expensive champagne bottles, private booths with velvet seats. Men in suits and women in glittering dresses filled the room. But the air was heavy, serious. Not the kind of place you crack jokes. Still, Bilha being Bilha, she couldn't help it. Phew, it smells like money and broken hearts in here, she whispered. When she was escorted into a private lounge, she saw him, Jaemin, sitting like a king, surrounded by men in dark suits. His presence was magnetic, calm but commanding. When he looked up and saw her, his eyes softened immediately. Everyone else turned to stare. It was as if the sun had walked into the room. Bilha smiled playfully. Hi, Santa Jr. I came to check if you got lost returning gifts. His lips curved slightly. You shouldn't be here. She tilted her head. Why? You hiding from me? The men around them exchanged glances. No one dared talk to Jaemin that way except her. He stood up slowly, his coat brushing against his shoulders, and walked toward her. You don't understand, Bilha. Oh, I understand, she said. You disappeared after making me laugh like a fool. That's emotional ghosting, sir. His men were trying not to laugh. One of them actually coughed to hide it. Jaemin's jaw tightened, but there was amusement in his eyes. You're brave, she grinned. I'm African. We fear snakes, not men. That line made him burst out laughing. A real laugh, deep, raw, and rare. Everyone in the room froze in disbelief. Their boss, the man who could silence a room with a look, was laughing like a teenager. You're something else, he said finally. Come with me. He led her upstairs to a quieter rooftop balcony overlooking the city. From up there, the neon lights painted the skyline in gold and pink. She leaned on the railing, pretending to be impressed. "So," she said, "this is where the mysterious man hides when he's not eating breakfast with funny women?" He smiled faintly. "Something like that." "Jaemin," she said softly. "Who are you really?" He hesitated. "Someone you shouldn't get close to." She raised an eyebrow. "Too late. I already kissed you in public. The internet probably shipped us." He chuckled again. "You really have no fear, do you?" "Only of bad food and heartbreak," she said with a wink. There was a silence, a sweet one. The kind that says we're in trouble, but we like it. Then his phone buzzed. His expression changed instantly. The warmth vanished. "I have to go," he said quietly. She frowned. "Go? Where?" "Work," he said simply. "Stay here for a bit. My driver will take you home." Before she could argue, he was gone. Fast, purposeful, almost like the wind. Bilha stood there confused. What kind of man leaves a beautiful woman mid-romantic moment for work? Santa Jr. She didn't know that his work that night wasn't about business. It was a deal gone wrong. A rival gang had ambushed one of his men, and by the time Jaemin arrived, chaos had already started. The cold, ruthless side of him returned. Within minutes, the fight was over. He was feared for a reason: calm, strategic, efficient. But even as he handled the situation, his mind wasn't on the danger. It was on her, on Bilha, the only person who had ever dared to talk back to him, laugh with him, and kiss him without permission. Later that night, he sat alone in his car, staring at her contact name on his phone. Bilha, Santa's miracle. He smiled faintly and typed, "Did you get home safely?" Seconds later, her reply came in, "Yes, boss man. Next time, text sooner." I was about to send a missing persons report to Santa. He laughed quietly. She was impossible. And yet, somehow, she was already becoming his piece in a world full of noise. As he looked out at the sleeping city, he whispered to himself, "Maybe this Christmas miracle isn't over yet." The following week, Seoul seemed to smile brighter for Bilha. Every morning, she'd wake up to a short text from Jaemin. Simple but enough to make her heart flutter. "Good morning, loud woman. Did you eat? Stop overworking. You make my day noisy in a good way." She'd grin at her phone and reply with something equally chaotic. "I was born to make noise. Feed me sushi and I'll behave. You miss me, don't lie." It became their rhythm. Sweet, playful, unexpected. Her friend Sujin noticed it right away. "Girl, who's making you smile like a teenager?" Bilha laughed. "Santa Jr." Sujin blinked. "What?" "It's a long story involving a Christmas kiss and destiny," Bilha said proudly. "Now pass the mirror. I need to look irresistible today." But while Bilha's world glowed with laughter and flirtation, Jaemin's world was darker than ever. His phone never stopped buzzing with calls. About shipments, rival threats, and police movements. His underground network was heating up again. He was trying to clean part of his operations, invest in legal businesses, clubs, logistics, even art, but leaving the shadows wasn't simple. He had enemies, powerful ones, and now, for the first time, he had a weakness, her. That Saturday, he texted, "Dress warm, 6 p.m. Don't ask questions." Bilha squealed and jumped on her bed. "He's taking me on a date." Finally, she spent the next 2 hours picking an outfit, finally settling for a cream sweater dress, thigh-high boots, and a matching beret. Her curls framed her face like soft fire. She looked at herself and whispered, "If he doesn't fall in love tonight, I'll call customer care on Cupid." When she stepped outside her apartment, a sleek black car was waiting. The driver bowed and opened the door. "Mr. Jaemin requested I bring you safely, ma'am." "Oh, we're fancy now," she said with a grin. The car stopped outside a private rooftop restaurant overlooking Seoul's skyline. The lights glittered like diamonds below them. It was breathtaking, quiet, romantic, and elegant. Jaemin was already waiting by the table, wearing a black coat and a soft smile that made her knees weak. "Wow," she said, pretending to fan herself. "You look like trouble in a tux." He smirked. "And you look like temptation in boots." They both laughed. That was their thing, making everything funny, even the moments that could have been too serious. Dinner was magical, soft jazz in the background, good food, and endless teasing. You know, she said between bites. I told my friend I was meeting Santa Jr. She said if I disappear, she's calling the embassy. He laughed. She's smart. I told her not to worry. If I disappear, I'll haunt you in style. He leaned closer, eyes amused. You'd make a beautiful ghost. She chuckled, then paused. There it was again. That strange seriousness in his tone, like he was hiding something beneath the laughter. Jaemin, she said softly. Can I ask something? Anything. Why do you always look like you're here but not here? Like your mind is somewhere else? He froze for a moment, then forced a small smile. Maybe I'm just not used to peace. Her eyes softened. Then I'll teach you peace. He looked at her for a long second. He wanted to tell her everything, about his business, his past, the danger, but he couldn't. Not yet. Instead, he reached across the table and took her hand. You already are, Bilha. Her heart fluttered. She smiled shyly and squeezed his hand. After dinner, they walked along a quiet street, their laughter echoing softly. He bought her roasted chestnuts from a street stall, and she pretended to be an influencer doing a food review. Welcome to Bilha Eats Korea, where we taste everything that burns your tongue. He was laughing so hard he had to hold onto a lamppost. Stop. People are staring, he said. Let them, she giggled. Maybe we'll go viral. They were perfect together. Chaos and calm, fire and ice. Then suddenly, a black van parked across the street caught Jaemin's eye. His smile faded instantly. His hand brushed hers, gentle but protective. Let's cross over, he said quietly. Why? The chestnut guy is on this side, she teased. Please, Bilha, just trust me. Something in his tone made her nod. They crossed quickly, and she noticed how his eyes kept scanning their surroundings. His body was tense, like a man used to watching for danger. When they reached her apartment, he walked her to the door. Thanks for tonight, she said softly. You're the best thing this Christmas brought. He smiled faintly. You're dangerous, Bilha. Dangerous? Me? She laughed. I can't even kill a mosquito properly. He chuckled but didn't answer. Instead, he looked at her, really looked at her, like he was memorizing her face. If I ever go silent for a while, he said quietly, don't worry, just wait for me. She frowned. Why would you go silent? He leaned closer, brushing a stray curl from her face. Because sometimes the world I live in gets loud. Then I'll shout louder, she whispered back. For a moment, neither moved. The night wrapped around them like a secret. Then he kissed her, slow, deep, unforgettable. When they finally pulled apart, she whispered, You taste like trouble. He smiled. And you taste like peace. That night, after he left, Bilha lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Something about him didn't add up. The expensive car, the bodyguards, the way people reacted around him, the sudden seriousness in his eyes. She opened her phone, typed Jaemin Seoul business owner into Google, but nothing useful came up. No photos, no news, nothing. Almost as if he didn't exist. She murmured. Either he's a spy or a vampire. She laughed, but deep down, she felt something stir. Curiosity mixed with unease. Meanwhile, across the city, Jaemin sat in a dark office with Dong-wook. They were watching us tonight, Dong-wook said. The van belonged to the Shin group. They know you've been seeing someone. Jaemin's expression darkened. They won't touch her. Boss, you know what they do. If they find out she's your weakness, then they'll regret it, Jaemin said, voice sharp as glass. He turned to the window, staring at the distant city lights. Bilha was somewhere out there, probably laughing at her own jokes, sipping tea, planning her next comeback. And for the first time in his life, the man everyone feared was scared. Not of death, but of losing something pure. He whispered her name under his breath. Bilha, my peace in chaos. For the next few days, everything between Bilha and Jaemin felt like magic. They texted constantly, sending each other voice notes, memes, and random late-night thoughts. She'd laugh at his seriousness. He'd melt at her chaos. One evening, she texted him, What are you doing? Working, he replied. You always say that. Are you building another universe? Maybe, he teased. Would you like to be its queen? She laughed out loud, rolling on her bed. Only if there's pizza, no rules, and you serve me breakfast every day. Deal, he replied instantly. It was cute, sweet, so natural that sometimes Bilha forgot she'd met him through an accidental Christmas kiss. But deep inside, something gnawed at her. That same uneasiness she'd felt the night of their date. The way he'd stiffened at the sight of that black van. The way he scanned crowds. The way he always said, "Don't worry." One afternoon, while helping Sujin at the cafe, Bilha spotted two men in dark suits standing outside. They weren't buying coffee. They weren't talking. They were just watching. Sujin whispered, "You see those guys? They've been there for 30 minutes. Bilha frowned. Maybe they're waiting for someone. But when she went to throw away the trash, she overheard one of them talking into a phone. She's here, alone. Her heart skipped a beat. She rushed back inside, pretending to be calm, but her hands shook as she picked up her phone. Bilha, where are you? Jaemin? At work. Why? Bilha, nothing. Just be safe. Jaemin, you too. She deleted the message thread after that. Something about it made her feel watched. That night, Jaemin showed up unannounced at her apartment. He didn't knock. He just appeared at her door, his jaw tight, eyes darker than usual. Jaemin? She asked, startled. You look like you just escaped an action movie. Pack a small bag, he said calmly. You're staying with me tonight. What? Why? Please, Bilha, don't ask questions. I'll explain later. The firmness in his voice made her obey without thinking. 10 minutes later, they were driving through the city in silence. When they reached his penthouse, she gasped. The place was massive, glass walls, a view of Seoul's skyline, everything shining in silver and black. Are you secretly Batman? She asked, trying to lighten the mood. He almost smiled. Something like that. She placed her bag down, then turned to face him. Okay, talk. Why am I here? He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Someone's been following you. Her heart froze. What? I didn't want to tell you, but they were spotted outside the cafe today. They think you're close to me. She blinked in shock. Close to you? You mean dangerous close? He nodded slightly. Bilha crossed her arms. Okay, pause. You're saying I'm being followed because I kissed a handsome man who turned out to be... What exactly? A spy? Politician? An alien? Bilha, he said softly. She stared at him, her voice trembling. Who are you, Jaemin? He looked at her for a long moment, struggling. I can't tell you everything. Not yet. She laughed bitterly. So you'll just hide me in your luxury cave and hope I don't ask questions? I'm protecting you, he said firmly. That's all that matters right now. Something in his tone made her quiet down. He wasn't lying. She could feel it, but it still hurt not knowing the truth. Later that night, she couldn't sleep. The penthouse was too quiet, too perfect, too big. She walked to the window, staring at the city lights. That's when she saw him, Jaemin, sitting alone on the balcony, a gun placed on the table beside his glass of whiskey. Her chest tightened. He looked heavy, tired, like a man carrying an entire world. She stepped outside quietly. Do you ever sleep? He looked up, startled, then smiled faintly. Not much. She sat beside him. You know, for someone who's always teasing me about being loud. You're the noisiest person I've ever met. In silence, he chuckled softly. That's poetic. Thanks. I learned from the best liar I know. She teased. He turned to her, eyes soft. I wish I could tell you everything. Then tell me what you can. He hesitated. Then finally, in a low voice, said, I deal with people who aren't safe. I'm trying to leave that world, but it's complicated. Some don't want me to. Bilha exhaled slowly. So, Mafia stuff? He said nothing, just looked at her. She blinked. Oh. Then she laughed nervously. Okay, so my boyfriend's a K-drama plot twist. Great. He smiled weakly. You're not scared. Of you? No. Of your enemies? A little. But mostly of how much I like you, and how crazy this all is. Jaemin reached for her hand. You should leave. Go somewhere safe for a while. No, she said quickly. You think I'll run now? I'm not built like that. If the storm's coming, we'll face it together. He stared at her, half in awe, half in disbelief. You're impossible. She smiled. You kissed me under Christmas lights. You started it. They sat there quietly for a while, watching the city. The tension between them melted into something softer. Then Jamin whispered, You make me want to be clean, Bilha. She turned to him slowly. Then start with a shower, she joked. He laughed for real this time. That deep, warm laugh she loved. But before she could say anything else, he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't like the first kiss. This one was slow, desperate, full of unspoken promises and fear. She kissed him back, hands gripping his coat, heart racing. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. If anything happens to me, remember this. You were the one thing that felt right in my life. Don't talk like that, she whispered. Nothing's happening to you. He smiled faintly. Then promise me you'll stay close. I promise, she said. But next time you bring danger to my doorstep, at least bring donuts too. He laughed again, pulling her close. And as Soul's lights flickered below them, the wind carried their laughter into the night. Two people holding onto something fragile yet strong, unaware that the storm was already moving closer.
Hello besties, thank you so much for watching. Kindly stay tuned for episode 2.